Ladies and gentlemen, the show we've all been waiting for. Paranormal Buzz Radio is proud to present REP Paranormal and Friends with your hosts, Kim Purvis and Allison Robinson. Live every Thursday night on Spreaker, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. Be sure to check out their Facebook page, REP Paranormal Busters.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, everybody, welcome to another night of REP Paranormal and Friends. We have Amanda and Woomer back from Spook Eats. We are going to be talking about something a little bit different today, though. We're going to be talking about women in the paranormal field. So, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super, super excited to be back. I love you guys. You guys are great.
Thanks. I know, it was super fun the last time, so I'm excited about this one. I'm excited about discussing these things and what you've been working on and all that jazz. So let's go ahead and get started. What made you come up with the idea of researching about women in the paranormal field?
It's actually a really recent development. I never really thought about it until probably about 2 or 3 months ago. I hosted my very first ghost hunting event with Spook Eats, and I realized that 90% of the people who were there were all female, and the few men that were there definitely had been dragged there against their will by their wives and girlfriends. And it made me think back to other events that I've attended just for fun in the past, and upcoming events that I've sold tickets for, and I see the names of the people who are buying these tickets, and they're all women. And I actually started thinking that, at least in my experience, every time I go on an investigation or I host one, I see that the majority of the people there are women, but if you ask your average everyday person, and even someone who is really interested in the paranormal, if they could, name some famous paranormal investigators, 9 times out of 10, they would only name the guys. Exactly. They would be able to name the guys on Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures, and that's really it. And I really started thinking there's really only 2 or 3 quote unquote famous female investigators out there, and that's a shame because clearly the majority of people who, at least that I'm experiencing, that are into this and are actually doing this are female. So I really wanted to focus on all female groups, whether it's groups of 1 or 2 women or 3 or 4 women, and just kind of get to know them and really highlight the work that they're doing, because they're doing just as much work as the men, but for whatever reason, men tend to get more of the attention for whatever reason. So that was kind of, it's a sudden interest of mine, but one that I've become very passionate about over the last few months. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I had fun kind of researching some of this because I didn't realize it went back so far. Catherine Crowe. Have you heard of her?
I have actually. I actually saw your notes that you posted on Instagram, and I
could read those chicken scribbles.
I saw her name at the top, and I was like, "Oh, Catherine! Oh gosh!" Because I've read bits and pieces of her book, The Night Side of Nature.
Yes.
Just because it's free online, you can just look it up and it's free. So I read bits and pieces of it. Eventually, I want to read the whole thing, but I just found her like really interesting. And then of course like her story ends with her having like a mental breakdown and she's walking naked through the streets of Edinburgh. And I'm like, girl, like you were on a roll. You were doing so well. And then that.
Yeah, I know. And then she must have got, I think they said then she got her composure back or something. I don't know. But yeah, I just thought that was so interesting because that was like, what, in the late 1800s or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was right around the same time that like the Fox sisters were coming into the scene. So like probably like the mid 1800s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, so I saw her name on there and I was like, yes, Catherine's on the list.
Yes. I mean, it was just crazy because I mean, she went around and basically, people gave them their experiences and then she put them into a book. And she was very into spiritualism and everything else too, which was, I mean, you didn't hear about that much. And like you said, yeah, the Fox sisters were back in that time too. I couldn't find a whole lot on them though.
I have a love-hate relationship with them. I'll probably get hate for saying this, but because I've done research on them, because for the Haunted Atlas of Western York, I focused on Lilydale, which we actually talked about the last time I was on here.
Yep.
And basically, Lilydale is a community of the spiritualist church movement, and that's what the Fox sisters started. But basically the story with them is that when the two younger sisters were like 10 and 12 years old, give or take, they claimed that they were communicating with the spirits in their house, and they convinced their older sister and then the whole freaking country that through like rappings and stuff they could communicate with the dead. Years later, one of the sisters admitted that it was a hoax, that they made it all up. Mm-hmm. So I have a difficult time with those ladies because according to reports, they did live in a haunted house, and they did spark a movement that is still very much alive and well today. I have friends that live in Lilydale. They grew up in Lilydale. And like I've been there many, many times, and there is something very powerful and spiritual there. But these sisters who were basically, I don't want to say charlatan because that's such a strong word, and I know there are a lot of people out there who are huge fans of the Fox sisters, but I have a hard time with them. I feel like they give a bad name for women in the paranormal.
Yeah, that are
because they were the ones that kind of cheated their way through it and over exaggerated things. But you also can't belittle the work that they did do and what they did inspire. Right. So it's a love-hate relationship with those gals.
Yeah. I can understand that. Because I was trying to look them up, but I just didn't find a whole lot on them. But excuse me. Another one is Eleanor Sedgwick.
I love Eleanor. Yes. She's like my paranormal role model. I consider her like my fairy godmother of paranormal research. Yeah. So, like, for people who don't know Eleanor Sidgwick, it was like the end of the 19th century. So a little bit after Catherine Crowe and the Fox sisters. But she was a woman with a solid head on her shoulders. She was a mathematician. She was a scientist. She was, a feminist at the time and a huge supporter of women in academia. And she joined her husband on basically early paranormal investigations, trying to figure out, how these seances work and, these different theories about ghosts. And she did come up with different theories and stuff that some of her things that she came up with, I still am like a huge believer in, and I 100% agree with her. And I actually try to like spread those ideas to others while I'm like, not like teaching and stuff at my ghost hunt events that I host. So Eleanor, she's my girl. I love her.
I know. I mean, just reading about her and everything. I mean, I'm still just shocked that there was people in the late 1800s and early 1900s, women that were doing these things. It just blows my mind. Like, I didn't know it went back that far. I honestly didn't.
Yeah, I know, like, it really became popular, at least, like, the spiritualist movement. That really became prevalent after the Civil War. because so many American lives were lost. And I think people were so desperate to reconnect with their lost loved ones and their dead sons and brothers and husbands that they looked to people like the Fox sisters and other psychic mediums to hold seances and do these sort of events to connect with the paranormal. So if more of these events and stuff are, happening around the country, obviously more people are going to be interested in it and start researching it and possibly debunking things or coming up with theories. So the fact that there was a woman in the middle of it all and she came up with solid theories that 150 years later are still pretty darn good, that's great. Hats off to her.
I know, right? There you go, guys. I think 90% of the people that are in chat right now are guys.
I know. Sorry guys, it's girl hour right now. I don't know what to tell you.
Today is
you are warned.
It is ladies' night tonight, so we have to give ourselves some props here, okay? Guys get it all when it comes to the paranormal. I mean, they really do. It's because most of the shows, that's what you see too. So
all of the shows, and if there is a woman on a show, she's sharing it with the dude.
Exactly. We should come up with our own show.
Exactly. All girls. Girl power.
Girls. Girl
That's
power.
all I want.
Another well-known woman is Lorraine Warren.
Yeah, I think she's probably the most famous one.
Uh-huh.
Because I think when I was asking the different paranormal teams, do you have any role models that you look to in the paranormal field? A few of them said Lorraine Warren, and I was like, okay, I can see it. She's, I think if Eleanor Sidgwick is the fairy godmother of the paranormal, then Lorraine Warren is the grandmother of the paranormal.
There you
go. So, and I actually, as I was thinking about it, I was like, oh my gosh, we're recording and having the show just a few days before the anniversary of her passing away. So it was perfect timing. So to talk about Lorraine.
Excuse me. Gotta tickle my throat. Just looking through here. I thought I saw something in chat, but who would kill all the spiders if it was all girls?
That would be me.
I'd kill a spider. I ain't
or
no damn
I'd
spider.
let it go. It's fine. It eats the rest of the bugs.
That's
I'd rather
right.
have a spider than anything else.
Right, exactly.
I'd
Let me
catch all
guess.
the snakes and everything.
Yeah. I was gonna say, let me guess. A guy wrote that question.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, but the fun thing with Lorraine Warren, I think that outside of the paranormal, I don't think too many people really knew who she was until the Conjuring movies came out.
Yep. Exactly.
And I'll admit, I'm a fangirl of those movies. I'm a sucker. I eat them up. I love them. I don't care how dramatic and historical.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
Yeah.
I know this is not legit at all, but dang, do I love these movies. So, but again, for anyone who doesn't know Lorraine Warren, I consider her probably one of the trailblazers of at least modern paranormal investigations for women.
Right.
I think it's hard to look at the Fox sisters or Catherine Crowe as a trailblazer just because it was a completely different time and they weren't necessarily investigating. I think Eleanor Sidgwick was a bit of she did more of an investigation with scientific methods and really thinking of things and logical explanations. Right. But I think Lorraine Warren really was kind of the first, at least that I know of, to actively visit locations and investigate the paranormal while also trying to help people with their paranormal experiences. She was a medium and a clairvoyant, and she and Ed founded the New England Society for Psychic Research in the 1950s, which in my mind I was like, oh my gosh, that's so much longer ago than I thought it would have been. I would have thought the 60s or 70s because that was a freaky deaky time anyway in America.
Yeah.
But I was like, the 50s, that's so like Wonder Bread and wholesome, and here they are like establishing this. Way to go. So, and it's tough because there are those people out there who also consider, Ed and Lorraine Warren to be, frauds or, tricksters. And I feel like it's not as black and white as with like the Fox sisters. Mm-hmm. The Fox sisters came out and admitted themselves that this was, a lie. It was a ruse. They made it up. Whereas Lorraine Warren never gave that impression at all. It always seemed very genuine and very heartfelt. The people that I know who knew her said, she's one of the sweetest people that they ever met. I know she's John Zaffis's aunt.
Right. Yep.
So there's like that integrity that is 100% there, in my opinion. So it's hard because you have those critics that consider the Warrens to be frauds.
Right.
But, and I feel like as a female investigator, you have to be open-minded but also skeptical of everything. So it kills me when people say that, because it does plant like that little seed of doubt in my head, like, well, maybe, because I know they investigated the Amityville house, and a lot of people have said since then, in retrospect, like nothing really happened in Amityville. It was a money grab. It was publicity stunt. So it's always like, here's one side of the story, here's another side. The truth is somewhere in the middle. And unfortunately, both Ed and Lorraine are now passed. They're both gone, so there's no way for us to ask them now.
Right.
But I still really admire the work that Lorraine did. I mean, even up until several years ago, she was still pretty darn active in the field. And, I think she really did a phenomenal job at blazing the trail for women, while also, I think, subtly empowering us to think like, we can do that too. So I really admire both Eleanor and Lorraine. So they're my two girls.
Yes. Excuse me. Now, do you have any other ones that you found from the past, or anybody else that you want to talk to about?
Those are my top ones from the past. So I don't know if you have anyone else in your research that you found.
Not in the past, no.
No.
Yeah, those were my top ones.
Yeah. I think, and unfortunately, it's kind of, it just adds to the conversation of women don't get enough
credit.
Enough credit, because even historically speaking, I'm sure over the last 150, 200 years, there have been more than 4 or 5 women doing these sorts of things, and yet we can only name a handful of them. It's just like yet another prime example of what we're talking about.
Exactly. And I mean, even today, a lot of them don't get recognized.
Yeah, I think the only reason that Lorraine Warren is well known is because of those Conjuring movies. Yeah, whether they're good or bad, whether you like them or you hate them, that's the reason why people know who she is. Because I think unless you're, if you're a part of the spiritualist movement, you know about the Fox sisters, and if you're a history nerd like me, you know about Eleanor Sidgwick. But like, other than that, people don't really know these women, and they each had a hand in kind of molding paranormal research and how we view the paranormal today. Be it good, bad, or otherwise, they all had a hand in it, and they deserve the credit. Ideally, we would have more women to kind of credit, where we are today, but we've only got that handful. So.
Yep, exactly. Now, do you have anybody from now that you have mad respects for or anything?
So I have my handful of ladies. I always keep them in my back pocket whenever people are like, "Oh, do you know of any new groups out there?" I'm like, "Oh, let me tell you, I got my girls. I got my girls. The boys don't need as much help getting their names out there.
Right.
The girls, I'm gonna get them out."
Yep.
So the one group that I absolutely adore, I love their work that they do, and it's really interesting because the work that they do on what they present on Facebook is different than what they present on Instagram, and then different what they produce on YouTube. So it's almost like 3 separate things that you get for the price of one, for lack of a better term. It's Mystic Mitten Paranormal Group. They're amazing. They're run by two women, Jessica and Hillary from Michigan. Hence Mystic Mitten, because the state looks like a mitten. They've had to explain it to people so many times, and I'm like, no, I get it. It looks like a mitten. Like, it makes total sense. But these girls, or these women, I should say, I shouldn't say girls. These women, they started back in 2017, so they're relatively new, but just the quantity of research that they've done and how they present it is just very unique, very creative, and it makes it interesting. I'll be the first to admit that paranormal investigations can be really freaking boring.
Yes, they can.
It's not like it is on TV where they edit about 10 hours down to 45 minutes. It's really boring. But these women, they really do a great job at producing content that is really intriguing, really interesting, and even, it sounds strange, but it's almost beautiful to look at. I love just the aesthetic. And so that's one group. The other group, obviously, is you ladies, Rep Paranormal Busters. I always encourage people to listen to this show and check out you guys because it's an all-female group. And it's a bigger all-female group. Most of the groups that I've talked to are either individuals like myself or two people, and that's it. So the fact that you've got 4 ladies is like, it's nice.
We started out with 7.
We started out with 7.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Wow. So I was going to say, I'm just impressed with 4. I'd be impressed with 3. I'm by myself. So I'm like, 2 people. Wow, that's big. But yeah, I think that, like, I love how you ladies, when you, well, other than the dolls, when you post dolls to Instagram, I don't appreciate that one way or another at all. I know.
I'm adding to my collection from my grandpa.
God,
They're the only ones I'll allow in the house because I used to play with them, so they're okay.
I just brought like a creepy clown doll back to my office the other day, and his name is Harold. I've named him Harold. I talked to him in case nothing bad happens. He's sitting right there staring at me right now.
If I see that move, I'm out.
I know, right? I'm done. This house is being burnt to the ground. And then the 2 other ladies that I've really highlighted in this project is Amy from Amy's Crypt. She has a pretty big following on YouTube. I think she just passed 100,000 subscribers, which is really cool because I have like 52. So I was like, wow, that's great. I know she's on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter also, but YouTube is really where she shines. And she creates these episodes where she travels the world. She's been, obviously places in Europe, and she's from Australia. But she goes to places all throughout Asia too, which I feel like people don't usually think of Asian locations when they're thinking of paranormal locations. I think people always jump to Europe for whatever reason. Right. But a lot of times, like, you look at Asia and you think the history goes back even further in Asia, so there should be just as many hauntings, if not more. So the work that she does is just, it's great. And then the last one is a woman named India. She works with her...
She's in the show tonight.
Oh, yeah, she's in the show tonight.
Oh, cool. Hi, India. She works with her boyfriend on Paranormal Encounters, also on YouTube. And those 4 groups are the ones that I've really connected with, even just organically over time, even before I started working on this project to try to highlight female investigators. For whatever reason, they were the ones that I really connected with. I think I just really respected their investigation tactics and style and just how they carry themselves. I feel like a lot of times, especially when people have, channels on YouTube and YouTube shows, or they try to get, Instagram famous or whatever, that you really, the work is lacking and the quality lacks just to get likes or views or whatever. But these these groups do a really good job at maintaining their integrity, while also coming up with some really great results. And like while I was chatting with them, it was really interesting to see the range of experiences that they've had over the years. I think you guys, Rep Paranormal Busters, are the longest running one of everyone that I've talked to. I think. I could be wrong, so if I am wrong, somebody correct me. But everyone else is relatively newer within the last few years.
7 years, I think.
7
14.
years.
Yeah, 2014 is when we started, yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, because like I did it like innocently starting in like 2005, but it was off and on
Right.
for years and years. And then I did it more 2015. So for me, I'm going on almost 5 years now. So we're all relative, like kind of like babies. So we're all looking to you ladies now. No pressure.
Well, I mean, we're
still learning.
We're still learning.
Like, learning a lot.
I think when we first started, I put some stuff on YouTube. I just threw some stuff on there. Like I didn't like edit it or anything. I haven't even looked at it or touched it or anything. I mean, I probably should, but I haven't. I have been going live on Periscope though. Been trying to get into that a little bit on some other things. So you never know.
Yeah. Well, and I love like when like Kim just said, like, you know, we're still learning. And like I think that is the biggest and most important thing that some people don't realize. Like my biggest thing that like my mantra that I always say about the paranormal is that there are no experts in the paranormal. There are no hard facts in the paranormal. We're all trying to figure out what the heck is going on with equipment and research and different tactics of investigating. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And if we're able to have a conversation with each other and learn from each other, our tactics and our style is going to evolve and change over time as well. It should. So right there, you've kind of just proven my point.
Exactly, because I don't care who says that they're a professional. There's no damn professional in the paranormal field. Sorry,
or
there's not. Male or female.
I'm a leading expert. And I'm like, in what?
Bullshit.
Yeah. So that was nice. Like, you guys could have been like, yeah, we're the experts of the lady investigators. And I would have been like, I mean, maybe not an expert, but you're the leaders right now in our group, in my group.
Everybody's always learning. There's always room for improvement. There's always... Yeah. Oh, she's like pointing at me for what? Oh, her phone just went off. She was trying to show me something.
There. That's the third time.
Yes, Shay, I'll get to the questions. I just haven't gotten there yet. She's like, I guess my question's not going to get answered or asked. And it's like, I'm getting there.
I got them written down.
We have a whole big list, so I try to go through what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and I just ramble. I need to stop. I need to stop rambling.
No, that's fine, because we have time. So, what are we going to do? I mean, what is there to do?
Yeah.
It's like, I had wine earlier, and then I switched over to some White Claw, so...
Oh, gosh. See, I'm 5 months pregnant right now, and I just... Oh, my God. Let me tell you, if I could be perpetually drunk through this whole quarantine, I would be hilarious and just thrilled.
I know, me too.
Instead, I'm miserable and miserable.
Oh, I feel for you. I do. I'm going insane with this whole thing, but, you know... There could be some videos that pop up. I was talking to one of my friends that's in one of my fitness things. This is off subject. I have my squirrel moments, but I think she was kind of rambling because she had been drinking a little bit. But I had mentioned to her that somehow we need to figure out a way where you and I can like do a live feed together and we can have a dance session so everybody can see it. And she's like, let's do it.
Oh no!
So be on the lookout for that. You never know; it might pop up. Oh. Kim's like, oh
God.
You gotta have fun.
At this point, that's all that's left.
I know. Okay. All right, let's see here. So, the reason why we're talking about this subject is because you've been working on an article. Do you want to elaborate what that's for?
Yes. So, as I had this idea or this notion that where the heck are all the women in literally every aspect of the paranormal, aside from being at actual investigations, because they're already there. I got the idea to really highlight the groups that I just mentioned in an article. I've been writing for Haunted Magazine for almost 2 years now. It's an awesome magazine. It comes out of the UK, and it's run by, ironically, a bunch of guys. But they're wonderful. While I was over in the UK last summer, I met with Paul, the main guy, Mr. Haunted Magazine, and I absolutely love working with them. They have a great attitude about the paranormal, and so this project kind of like popped up into my head, and that's when I reached out officially to these female groups that I've already felt somewhat connected with. And basically I went through and I asked everyone a series of questions. Everyone got the same questions. Kind of, what is your background with, your paranormal teams? How long have you been investigating? How did you meet? What made you want to start researching the paranormal? Role models, and then also talking about possible hardships and prejudices that they've experienced, as well as advantages to being a woman in the paranormal, and then also advice. And it was very interesting because the answers were usually very, very similar, which was kind of cool to me. Like, I kind of expected, like, maybe I'm the only one that feels this way. I don't know. But it turned out like everyone was like really excited about the project, really appreciated the kind of the exposure that I feel like, again, like every single group really deserves it because of the work that they're doing. And yet because they're not these macho guys on a TV show, they're kind of being passed over, even if the content that they're coming up with and the results that they're finding are just as interesting, if not more so, than what's on TV. But it was interesting to me because when I asked everyone, what made them want to start researching the paranormal, every single group said that they had an experience when they were younger. Some of them said they were toddlers when they first noticed, or their mothers, I should say, noticed that something was off with them. Like they noticed things, they saw things. Others were about 7 or 8 years old, similar to my first experience. And then others were preteen, 12, 13 years old. And so I thought that was an interesting idea that every single group had that similar kind of that seed being planted in the very beginning at a very early age of just an interest in the paranormal. And I do think that is universal. I do think both men and women experience that. Why else would you try to investigate the paranormal? Again, investigations are not the coolest thing to do. Like a lot of times you're sitting in a freezing cold building in the dark.
I know.
For hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like who chooses to do this?
I know.
So I thought that was really, really interesting. And then when I talked about role models with people, some people didn't have role models. They were like, we kind of feel like we're on our own in this. We kind of march to the beat of our own drum. Other people said, like the famous ladies today, like Katrina and Amy Bruni, those were the two names that kept popping up a lot. And honestly, I think those are the two female investigators nowadays that people know about. And that's really it, which is such a shame because I feel like there are so many great female investigators out there. And Amy and Katrina are amazing. I grew up watching Amy Bruni on Ghost Hunters when I was an awkward 15-year-old. And like today, like Katrina is one of like my role models. I think she's got a great head on her shoulders. I love watching her and learning from her, just because I think that so many times certain gentlemen on TV are very, very dramatic, and it cheapens things where I'm like, this is interesting in and of itself. We don't need to add anything for ratings.
Exactly.
Anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that.
That's a whole other topic right there.
That's a whole other topic. But then the biggest conversation that I had with these women was about hardships and prejudices. And some groups were very lucky enough to not have experienced anything. And I find that groups that do more hands-on investigation just for the sake of investigating without doing YouTube videos or posts to Instagram or things like that, they were the ones that really were able to avoid prejudice and sexism and things like that. But the women who do kind of put themselves out there into the limelight of sorts were definitely exposed to those sorts of things. And I noticed that it was always the groups of single women that were really kind of singled out again for like their looks, their physical looks, whether what they were wearing or how their hair looked or how much weight they've gained since the last video. Several of the women that I talked to discussed that. And even myself personally, like I'll post a photo on Instagram. There was one in particular that I posted. I was in it was raining. Yeah. I was taking photos for my haunted atlas, and it was not cute at all. I had wet pigtails, a beanie on, and a Baja jacket, and my glasses. And someone commented looking good, hot stuff. And I was just like, really? That's not true. And every so often I've gotten comments like that where I'm trying to explain an urban legend or the origin of this tombstone or different things like that, and someone will be like, nice butt, and I'm like, okay, that's not why we're here, please go away. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know why people think that that's what we're looking for, because it's not. I don't know at all. Right. So if you're doing that out there, please stop.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's weird. And then one thing that I thought was very interesting, and I have seen it over and over again, India from Paranormal Encounters, she has talked about, because she has the series on YouTube with her boyfriend, I believe his name is Connor, people will watch the show, and in the comments, they'll always mention Connor by name, and then she will always be quote unquote the girl. Oh, jeez. They'll never remember her name, and in a way, it just makes me feel like she's an accessory, or some she's offering just as much to this investigation and to this this episode on YouTube. Right. Her name is a unique and beautiful name, so you should remember it. Right. So it was that was something really interesting that I have seen from other groups in the past, and I've heard from other people where they'll say everyone remembers the guy's name, but for whatever reason they can't remember my name. Right. It'll just be she or her, the girl. Right. So I thought that was unfortunate, but also kind of a common thing. And then many of us, myself included, we've experienced working with men. Again, I work alone, so my interactions with certain gentlemen, not all men, because there are some men that I've worked with that are absolute dolls, and I love them, and I will work with them all day long. But there's a handful where you, just by talking to them and kind of getting to know them, you realize they don't think that I know what I'm talking about. Or they don't think that women are nearly as knowledgeable as they are. So they'll try to I won't say mansplain, but
yeah.
try to explain things. And you'll be like, yeah, I know. I've been researching this. I know. Yeah. Only recently, someone informed me on a post that I made. Well, did you know that Western New York is actually very haunted? And I wanted to be like, bro, you're commenting on a photo of the book that I literally wrote on that topic.
I think I commented on that.
And I'm just like, dude, what are you doing? Come on. So, and then just recently, the other day, someone commented and they were like, well, you should know that a lot of pubs and restaurants are haunted. Yeah, that's. And I want to be like, dude, I'm spooky. That's literally what I do. Dude. I do haunted bars and restaurants.
Exactly. I know. I think that's the one I commented on. I was like, oh my gosh, seriously, are you that dumb?
Yeah. So, and a lot of times I've found that on investigations, a few times I've gone to locations where I'm working with an in-house investigation crew or someone who's usually there, and before they really like get to know me, they're like, oh, you have to go to the bathroom. Would you like me to escort you? And I'm like, no, like I can walk down the hallway. It's not that big of a deal. And they're like, are you sure? Yeah. And I get it's coming out of a good place in their hearts. But one of the women that I talked to, they said, anything the guys can do, I can do as well. I'm not going to say anything you can do, I can do better. Right. But I can do it just as well. Right. And exactly. I can go to the potty by myself and make it back okay. So again, I would say, 9 times out of 10, the people that I meet and the gentlemen that I work with are absolute dolls, and I love working with them. But those are like, there are those sour apples in the bunch that just, I don't want to say they'll ruin your experience, but every so often you're like, I don't really want to go back there because that guy works there. And again, the positives completely outweigh the negatives. But I do think it's kind of like a conversation that needs to be said that, there is a little bit of prejudice, at least for people who are paranormal creators, I'll say, that like to put out a product of what they've captured and experienced on location. But I mean, there's so many advantages to being a woman in the paranormal, especially according to all of these groups that I talked to. Every single group that I talked to, including you, you guys said that there are absolutely no disadvantages to being a woman in the paranormal, which I loved. I was thrilled to like see that because I was curious, like if some people felt like, yeah, there are disadvantages, and let me tell you, but not a single group had anything. Awesome. And a lot of people said, that there's tons of advantages. Women are more sensitive and open. We're more willing to talk about how we feel. And I think that helps with picking up on things. A lot of times your body is the best detector of sorts. And if you're going to bottle it all up and not talk about it, women on average, usually are more open to, talking about what they're experiencing, which will help in an investigation. Another woman said that, they consider women to be more empathetic in their approach. A lot of times guys will come off as very assertive and, dominant and try to, antagonize an answer out of something. Whereas I feel like women will be, more nurturing and calming. And especially if you're working with a spirit or an energy that belongs to a child or another female, they might be more willing to gravitate towards you than this big guy in the middle of the room, trying to get answers from someone. So there's definitely advantages and stuff. And the last thing I'll talk about with the article, because I know that there's questions, is I asked, my final piece was, what advice do you have for other women thinking of starting out researching the paranormal? And this is for anyone who's listening, but especially women who are listening. Every single group literally wrote the exact same thing.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Every single group, again, including you guys. And you all said, just go for it.
Yep.
Just do it.
Yep.
The next thing that everyone said was, make sure you do your research, experiment, be respectful. Right. But the number one thing was just go for it. You've got nothing to lose. Don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated just because you are a woman. So I thought that was the coolest part of this whole conversation with everyone, was that everyone's response to that was just go for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that, I was like, because when you sent that to me, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta figure out something. So I did it real quick, and then to see that other teams had come up with the same kind of things is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, every single group.
That is awesome. That is super awesome. Oh, she took my notes. My question.
Just a minute.
Oh.
I'm organizing here.
Oh.
Shay's out of the room, so you gotta wait till she comes back for that one.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, the rest are right there.
The rest are here. Holy smokes, we got 2 pages.
Okay, Shay's back.
Oh
you
my
can
God.
ask it now.
Oh, I can ask it now. Okay.
She's back now.
Oh, that's why mine. my chat is always so slow. It either kicks me out or I never see half the stuff. So, you know.
She's back, so you can ask her question now.
All right. Should I start singing Slim Shady or something? Guess who's back? It must be the wine kicking in.
Ask that one first, then.
All right, I'll ask this one first, since she's been hounding me because, you know, I'm the asshole. That's what she calls us. Okay. Do you think women using their sexuality looks helps or hurts the field for other women?
I don't... Honestly, I've never really come into contact with women who have used their sexuality, whether to get a response out of an entity or to get, you know, more of a response from living people watching the show or looking at their photos. Excuse me. So I've never personally experienced that. But my feeling just in general, outside of the paranormal, is that the beauty and the power of being a woman is to be able to do what you want and what you are comfortable with doing. You know, so some women might be comfortable wearing, you know, a really, really short skirt or a plunging neckline or a really, really slinky dress. I'm personally not comfortable with that. You know, I like big baggy sweaters and leggings and combat boots. Like, that's how I dress.
Right.
But, you know, if some women are comfortable with that and that's how they feel empowered, rock on. I'm not going to tell you how to dress, just like you probably wouldn't be caught dead wearing what I'm wearing. So I'm kind of in the realm of, as long as you're not hurting yourself or hurting others, have at it. Be you.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. I mean, I'll put my little 2 cents in real quick. I think there are some that may have been have-beens in the past that are kind of trying to use a little bit of to try to get back into it, but it's not for the right reasons. They just want they want the fame and everything. That's my 2 cents.
The likes and views.
Yeah. Exactly. That's my 2 cents because, But I haven't actually, when I've been out investigating or anything like that, but a lot of times when Kim and I go, it's usually
just me and you.
It's it's just usually Kim and I, or we went with Creeps in February, which was awesome. Those guys are great, Admin Alex, so they're amazing. I have to give them props. But okay, let's see here. Let's get to these questions here, so I don't get yelled at anymore. Let's see here. What is the most difficult part of paranormal for women?
Honestly, I think, at least from my experience, is just finding a way to be taken seriously. I've been doing this for about 2 years now. I'm fairly consistent with, visiting locations and writing books and writing articles and hosting events. And I still have a very hard time having certain groups and certain individuals actually take me seriously. And I have found that other women have the exact same problem, that for whatever reason, when it's an all-female group or just a lone woman doing something, they have a hard time with people taking them seriously. But once they are taken seriously, people find that they are legit and they do have something of value to offer. But I think just getting your foot in the door is the hardest part.
Yeah, I agree. Goodness. Let's see here. I lost my spot. Okay. Do you feel that women get more activity than men? Kind of about the same.
I do. And I kind of touched on it with women being more open and being more empathetic. I do think that when you're dealing with a child or a woman entity, that they'll gravitate more towards a female in a room or in a group than a group of men. On the flip side, I do also think if you are dealing with a male entity, it's the exact same thing, but for different reasons. It's not because you're empathetic, but I think it's because that they either can sense your energy and kind of feed off of that and then hone in on it, or they think, oh, it's a woman, she's weak, she's going to get scared, I'm going to hone in on that. And again, I've never really experienced a negative haunting. I feel like you have people who are jerks and beautiful people, and you have spirits that are jerks and beautiful people.
Right,
exactly.
So it's
kind of the same thing. But I do think that women do tend to get a little bit more action, for lack of a better term, that came out horribly. At haunted locations, just because we're more open to things, and I think male spirits will gravitate towards us, as well as female and childlike entities and spirits. Again, for different reasons, but at least that's what I've experienced when I've been in with a group of men and women. The women always will experience more, whether it's a physical touch, or they'll hear something, or they'll capture an EVP. Right. So for whatever reason, I do think that women do get a bit more action.
I have seen that in some of our investigations, where at times Kim and I might get some more other, than the rest, but sometimes it's kind of equal. Sometimes we don't get a lot, but... All right, let's see here. What goes better with an investigation? Red wine, white wine, or Zinfandel?
That was from Matt.
Oh!
I had to leave it in there.
Red wine for me, baby!
This is an excellent question. For me, I'm a hardcore red wine girl, so I gotta go with a dry red. Yes! Personally.
Woo! Yes, me too!
He forgot about my Pepsi, but...
Oh, yeah, Kim does Pepsi.
Okay.
Yes.
India says vodka.
What?
India says vodka.
You say that's like the really, really white wine.
Yeah.
I had to leave that one in there.
Yes, that's a great one. That was awesome. Yes. Red wine, which I had some earlier tonight. Thank you.
Oh, so jealous.
I need to get some more. All right, let's see here. How do you feel about, this kind of pertains to you, pregnant women going on investigations? Are they more at risk with the spirits?
So the last investigation I got to do before being locked into my house was the leap day. Mm-hmm. So about 2 weeks before I was locked inside. So I was pregnant. I knew I was pregnant, and everyone that was there, they could tell I was pregnant because I am showing. And basically how I viewed it is I went to a location that I'm very familiar with. I've been there on my own a few times, and I do think that there could be a risk factor if you're not careful. I'm very, very anal about making sure when I'm done with an investigation to kind of like wash my hands of the place, kick the dirt off my shoes, and be like, all right, thank you, do not follow me home, and kind of separate any attachment that might have happened while I was there. And luckily, while I was there, another woman who practices Reiki, she was also there, and she helped me kind of like cleanse afterwards. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a personal choice. I think at this point, I'm not going to be able to do any more investigations while I'm pregnant, because at this rate, I'm still in my house. Yeah. For the foreseeable future. Yeah. So, but I really think it's a personal decision. If you feel comfortable, and if you're going to a location that you know you'll be safe in, I don't see any problem going, as long as you do take those precautions that it never hurts to, burn some sage or take some holy water with you or something, because you'd rather be safe than sorry, especially with your unborn child's life.
Right. Yep. I agree. Let's see. What do you fear most of the paranormal?
Do I fear most? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, I feel like my biggest fear would be coming into contact with something evil or demonic. But like for me, like I feel like it happens so often on TV that I'm kind of like disillusioned with it now. I've never experienced anything like that personally, so I have a hard time thinking that it's as common as TV shows make it out to be. So, and again, I think my biggest concern, aside from that, if that's even like an actual concern, is just physically getting hurt. A lot of these places are not the safest. And, you or someone on your team or someone that you invited in with you could physically get hurt in one of these locations. So for me, it's probably a very boring, mundane answer, but at least right now, that is my biggest concern because I don't put a lot of stock into, every nasty haunting is demonic. But do I believe in demons? 100%, absolutely. I pray that I never come into contact with one. But so far, so good. And I know that was a boring answer.
No, it's not. Every answer is a good answer.
Thanks.
It is. All right. Do you find that the females are more often to be mediums in the paranormal field versus the guys being mediums?
Ooh, that's a tough question. And I actually was just thinking of that because, again, the idea that women are more empathetic and more open to how they're feeling. Personally, I know more female mediums than I do male. However, probably the most famous psychic medium out there is Chip Coffey. And he's a guy. So, I think it's very similar to paranormal investigators. I do think that men are just more well known than women. Why? I don't really know. But at least personally, I do think that I know more women than men. So I don't know if it's similar to the paranormal investigation issue with men just kind of being more well known, maybe being on TV more versus the ladies that are out there doing just the exact same work and work that's just as good.
That's true. Gosh, I don't know why I keep getting chills. Sorry. Something is bothering me. Not sure what it is, but probably come to me later. All right. Let's see here. Oh, that's the same question pretty much. Okay, so this is a running question from Darren. Probably asked you in the last one, I can't remember, but what's the one object in the world you never want to be haunted?
Dolls!
That's right, yes, dolls. I remember now, dolls.
Exactly.
That is right.
Yes, dolls. I have a very hard time with dolls. Haunted or otherwise.
I mean, I do too, but, Kim inherited one in her case, and, she is kind of creepy, but her and I have this weird bond. Like, the first time she got her, like, she sat on my lap the whole interview, and, like, she felt warm on my lap like a human. It was kind of weird.
Nope, that's a big fat nope. Nope.
And then, all of a sudden I'm like, well, my grandpa has all these dolls in there that were my grandmother's and things like that, and some of them I used to play with, so they're going to be coming to my house. My daughter's like, oh no, Mom, oh no. No,
I feel her.
I have to build a case at my house for them.
Probably. Because any doll she has, she hides deep down in a closet buried under anything. She doesn't want to look at it, doesn't want to hear it, doesn't want to see it, nothing. She's like, nope.
Nope.
We'll see. I already have a couple of them at the house. She probably doesn't know it yet.
Well, now she does.
Shay says the scream around the world.
Oh, yeah, I know. The scream around the world. Yeah, I know. I'm never going to live that down with that doll. Hey, that was freaking, that threw me off there when that doll flew. I can't get over that. Don't think that'll ever happen to me again. Hoping. Knocking on wood. Right?
Knock on wood.
Oh, okay. So the next question is, what do you want to be haunted?
Ooh, that's really difficult. I'm looking around my office right now, what would I want to be haunted? I would love if a typewriter was haunted and would type out messages.
Oh, there you go. It could type out all your books and things for you.
Oh, that'd be great. Please, can this please happen? That'd be great.
It'd probably put words into your mouth.
Yeah,
that is something you don't really want in there.
I'll have a disclaimer at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's too crazy. But that's a good answer, though.
It's a good question. Whoever asked that, very good. That was a great
Darren.
question.
It was probably Darren.
He's talking about the scream around the world,
Yeah.
And then he goes, what about the time I grabbed your leg at the...
Oh yeah, I know.
At the Granger
the only
house.
one time Kim scared me was at the Granger house. I was doing a live feed and I was walking up the stairs, and telling everybody, because I'm like, I thought I saw something up those stairs and I couldn't tell if it was a raccoon or what. And then I could see this face thing, and then I realized it was in the wood. And next thing you know, she rattled the stairs and grabbed my leg, and I was like, ah! Pretty sure I said a few profane words, but I was just. That's the one time.
Matt says everybody loves a Ghost Rider.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Ghost Rider. Do you remember that show?
Oh my gosh, can we? Okay, this needs to happen now. Yeah, please.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. That's great. Yeah, I remember Ghost Rider. Let's see here. Out of all the women in the field, who has the most creative approach?
Ooh. Oh gosh. I'll go for the famous, well-known women, just because I don't want to waste time trying to explain who I'm talking about. One thing that I really liked, that Amy Bruni started doing on Kindred Spirits, they walk around with lanterns.
Oh. Uh-huh.
And for me, this is actually a theory that Eleanor came up with, that ghosts don't just haunt at night. You can see them during the day as well. And this is one of those things that I always try to reiterate to people, is you don't have to necessarily investigate at night. And even investigating in the dark, for me, if you ask for something to move, or you're looking for movement of some kind and you're in a pitch dark room, you're not going to be able to see it. So just something so simple as walking around with these campground flashlights or lanterns is so smart. It's so smart. No, but it's so smart though. You can actually see your environment and see changes in your environment. And that was something that, again, it probably is a silly answer, but I just remember seeing them doing that on Kindred Spirits and being like, thank you! It just makes sense.
Right.
I've done it before Kindred Spirits.
Yeah.
I've always carried one.
Yeah, she's always had a flashlight or a lantern of some sort that we'll use. I mean, sometimes we turn it off, but then there's times where we will turn it on, especially if we're wanting to see one of our things light up.
Plus we use it for the live feeds, so people can see.
Live feeds, because Instagram doesn't have that.
Yeah,
where you can put a freaking light on.
They don't have infrared yet. They need an infrared filter.
Oh my gosh, that is something that these social media things need to come up with that. That'd be
Get
so
on
awesome. You better patent that. Well, let's see here.
Couple more questions.
Let's see here. This one says equal time. I don't know if they're asking you if you think that both or everyone needs to have equal time.
I think what he's asking, everybody should have equal time, not just guys in authority or the women in authority. I think he was.
What are your beliefs on that? I'm just going to say that.
So, should male investigators and female investigators get the same airtime? Is that the question? Are we thinking?
I'm wondering if that's kind of what they're thinking.
Yeah. I think
okay. So basically, I mean, in a perfect world, that would be great. Just because, again, there are so many female groups out there and so many female investigators. Again, I'll stand by that there might even be more female than male out there. So the fact that 100% of TV shows out there have at least one guy on the show, if not every single cast member being a guy. It would be nice to see more women. Again, the only shows that I can really think of with female investigators is Kindred Spirits and Portals to Hell.
Right now.
That's all I can really think of. Dead Files has Amy Allen, but she's a psychic medium. She's not investigating. So I think, maybe not necessarily equal, but more than just 2 shows. And even those 2 shows, only half the cast is female. So I would definitely like to see more. I think that women have so much to offer. And clearly we're proving that on the internet, because the internet gives us the time of day versus, huge networks.
Yep, exactly. Okay, let's see here. Last question here is, what is your favorite haunted place?
Ooh. For me, and I did go more into detail, I'm pretty sure, the last time I was on the show. Yeah, for me, my favorite location is the Ghostlight Theater in North Tonawanda. It's not very well known. It's not famous or anything in the paranormal field, but I've been a member there for 15 years, and I've just had, over the years, so many experiences. I've felt things, I've seen things, I've heard things, I've captured things on camera. So for me, sorry, excuse me.
That's okay.
I feel the most connected to that location.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just had the most profound experiences there, without going into too much detail again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Ghostlight Theater for me is definitely my number one. So I encourage people to look it up, because it is this great little community theater that has great history and lots of ghost stories.
Awesome. All right, so before we wrap up, why don't you go ahead, because I know we've had a lot of new faces in chat tonight that weren't here the last time you were on, so if you want to kind of let everybody know where they can find you, and so that way they can see all the awesome things that you're working on, because I know you're working on some other great things. I have seen things, so if you just want to kind of give them that information.
Sure. So my website is spookeats.com. That's SPOOKEATS. Spook Eats, not Spooky Eats. It's trying to be a pun, but not succeeding. So spookeats.com is my website. And then on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, it's just @spookeats. Nice and easy. And I always encourage people that if they know of any haunted restaurants, bars, or hotels, or if they own one, which is even better, they can contact me at spookeats@gmail.com. I love to hear from people. I love to get recommendations from people, and I'm always adding to my spooky bucket list. So definitely reach out. I love hearing from listeners and readers, and let's get chatting spooky stuff.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. You guys gotta, if you're not already following her, you need to follow her, because it's awesome. She does awesome things. Let's see here. I'm going to give quick shout outs to everybody who was in chat tonight. We had myself, we had Kim, we had Matt, we had Christopher, we had Shay, we had Nico, we had Darren, we had Mama Deb, Rebecca, India, Holly, we had Nick, and we had Fred. I didn't even see you in there, Fred. You must have just slipped right in there real quick.
Snuck in about the middle.
Okay, gotcha. That's why I missed ya. Sorry, but I want to say thank you to everybody who was in chat tonight. We had an awesome chat, lots of discussion in there, so thank you for that. Thank you for everybody who's not in chat but is listening. We thank each and every one of you. We thank Amanda for being on the show again. Of course, we'll have to have her on again, because we always do, because it's always a great time. I love it. We always have so much to talk about, and we had a lot of good questions tonight, some different ones too, so that was awesome. So thank you once again for being on. Next week we do have
Short Bus.
We have Short Bus Paranormal, so it'll be Nick and Sue from Short Bus Paranormal. So stay tuned for that show as well. And have a good night.
Thank you for listening to REP Paranormal and Friends. Be sure to check out Kim and Allison on Facebook at REP Paranormal Busters.